Hello guys, it's your boy Øni-Kai. Welcome to another video. This video is what if Deku had a portal quirk. Okay, now we're gonna sum up the story. So, Inko's side of the family is actually going to be having a mutation type quirk evolution. So, let's say Inko has the telekinesis quirk, right? So Izuku's grandfather would have actually ended up having a warp quirk. And he would be able to warp things without needing portals. Though, in this version, Deku is going to be having a portal type warp quirk. So essentially, how we'll begin this story is Izuku will be playing with some toys in the in the living room while Inko's sitting down watching TV. And he would drop his toy and a portal would appear, disappearing the toy and landing it right on Inko's lap. And she would get freaked out by this. So she would take him to the quirk specialist immediately. Not Dr. Ujiko, by the way. So now, as the quirk specialist, as they get to the quirk doctor, she would essentially just explain to him, Inko would explain to the doctor what happened. And he would take note of this, and it would seem that the mutation in Inko's side of the family actually keeps going. And as the evolution happens, even crazier type quirks begin to develop. So, Izuku would end up having a portal quirk. Not only that, but anything that goes through his portals can be instantly controlled to his fullest ability by him. So it's like Inko's telekinesis, but to some other levels. So he can essentially send someone, even a body part, through the portal, as he would gain complete control over that someone. He would also be able to move his portals around infinitely. So, now we get to Deku going to school, and Bakugo, everyone would be surrounding a table, as Izuku would try to go see what's happening. And it would be Bakugo flaring his quirk with little sparks. And Izuku would appear right behind Bakugo and say, "Whoa, that's pretty cool, you got your quirk too?" And everyone would be shocked. Bakugo, speaking up for them, would be like, "Izuku, how did you do that? You have a teleportation quirk?" And Izuku would begin to explain how his quirk works. And his quirk would actually be called Vector Gate. So, he would actually take Bakugo back to his own house to eat lunch. And they would just finish up, and then right as lunch is over, pretty much, they would teleport back to the classroom, being the first ones there, actually. And the teacher would be like, "Okay, what did I tell you about using your quirk?" As Izuku would be like, "Sorry." And then we just skip to the end of the day. So as soon as the bell rings, Deku and Bakugo just make their way toward home. So Deku having seen Bakugo's room before, he would just teleport him to his room. Then he would make his way downstairs, telling his mother, what is his name? Katsuki, goodbye. And then she would be like, "Huh? How'd you get here?" And he would essentially just show off his quirk, making two portals right next to each other, as he would then throw, so let's say an apple. Let's say he had an apple in his hand. He would throw an apple to it through the portals, and it would come out behind him in a different portal and hitting him in the back. And by the way, the momentum carries through a portal. So let's say if he spawns a portal in front of him and then behind an opponent, he can punch through it and it will hit them, carrying more momentum than it would actually, because it takes speed. Let's say if you understand portals, so your hand, like say you put your hand through a portal, it will always be visible somewhere. There's no point when you put something through a portal and it will not be visible. So with that happening, that basically explains how the speed works, because you can put your hand inside a portal and as soon as you do, it could appear somewhere far away. So the momentum actually carries 10 times as fast. I honestly don't know if that's true, but I'm just gonna be saying that. So Izuku would begin to train. He would just do some basic weight training and all that stuff. He would be at the gym. He would be at the gym, but he would have to be under supervision of a trusted adult. So Inko would have to be there, and if she was at work, then Katsuki would be there monitoring Bakugo and Deku. So they would just be doing some push-ups and stuff, and they could really just do that at home. But they thought it would be cool to just go to the gym. Okay, but Izuku and Bakugo just continue to train. They would actually think of going to a beach and just start sprinting and doing some like agility training in the sand. And they came across Daytona Beach. This not Daytona Beach. What is that beach called for all the trash? Okay, they just come across the beach with a lot of trash, and they would essentially just begin to pick up the trash and run with it on their back, as they are this is when they had just turned 5. So they're already doing this type of training at 5, and it's pretty good. But let's continue. So we're gonna have a time skip to when Izuku and Bakugo are in the 8th grade. Yeah. So they just got out of class. Bakugo and Deku are just walking home together. Oh my god, bro. I just said walking home. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna say he's walking home. Let's just say their teacher said you can't use your quirk to get home, as the pro heroes are out on patrol and don't have time to deal with you guys. So they end up just walking and taking a shortcut route because they don't want to be late. So as they're walking through a tunnel, there would be a sinister voice behind them saying, "Oh, there's 2 of them. One of you are gonna be my hero, and one of you is gonna be dead." As the sled villain would appear, lunging on Deku, before Izuku would teleport about 10 meters behind, before adding a portal right in front of him to send the sludge villain through, as he would essentially grab the sludge villain through the portal before creating another, sending him at least 10 meters up, as he would just fall straight down and splatter everywhere. As Bakugo would just start firing explosions, and Izuku would begin to rip it apart. Like simultaneously, they would both be decimating the sludge villain, as they would both hear, "I am here." Wait, I just said here and then here. Okay. They would both hear, "I am here," as it would be All Might, and they'll be very excited, right? So now we get both Deku and Bakugo asking for autographs. So All Might would gladly give it to them. They'll both get, let's say, their shoes signed, right? And then All Might would be like, "So, did you guys take this villain out about yourselves?" And they would both answer simultaneously saying yes, as All Might would say, what are your quirks, young man? And Bakugo would tell All Might first before him saying, that's a very promising quirk. And Deku ending up telling All Might, not telling him actually, he would end up showing All Might what his quirk was. So, now we get into the events of All Might wanting to take Bakugo home and Izuku, both of them, so they would actually teleport there to the front door before knocking, and Katsuki would come out saying, "Who is it?" All Might! And Deku and Bakugo would just be sitting there with a little smirk on their face, on both of their faces, as he would begin to tell Katsuki what happened, and All Might would end up asking both Deku and Bakugo if they wanted one for all, as Deku would instantly say no, and so would Bakugo, both of them saying they want to become their own heroes and not be overshadowed by All Might. I mean, he is the number one hero, but they want to become the number one and number two heroes someday as well. So, now we get to the events of the 10-month training arc. Skip. What did I just say? 10-month training arc? Alright, so, now we have, essentially, they will just be doing the same thing, but instead of just weight training and agility, Bakugo will be working on some like AP shot way earlier, as he would take inspiration from Izuku's shot that he would have developed. It would basically be, let's say, a portal gun. Like, if you're looking at my video, there should be on the screen of me playing, right, Fortnite, and then there's this like bass boost, the little, they're called bass boost, like he's holding them right now, and then they let you like send waves and jump. Deku would essentially create this, but they would not do what they do in Fortnite. They would allow Izuku to shoot his portals out like projectiles and turn them into weapons, as he can create all sorts of shapes of portals. So he could turn them into like arrows or some kind of like sharp projectile and other things like that. So Bakugo would be working on AP shot way earlier in the original than the original, and he would be super powerful. But now we get into the UA entrance exam. So, as Deku and Bakugo are walking up to the gates, they would walk into the classroom before doing the paper exam. Bakugo wouldn't do too well, but no, actually, he would be studying with Izuku, so he would actually do pretty well. He would get like an 80, and then Deku would get like a 97 or something. Now we get on to the robot portion. So, as Deku and Bakugo are talking right in front of the gates, President Mike on the loudspeaker would say, "Go, go, go! There's no countdowns in a real battle." As Deku and Bakugo would charge through, instantly destroying two robots, both of them. Izuku would shoot his portals out like projectiles, hitting two robots that were like stacks. Let's say he just, like a skewer, like he just skewered the two robots, like 1 and 2, back to back, 2 four corners, and then Bakugo would charge in with explosions, charging up an AP shot, doing almost the same. These two would both be recognized by Nezu, and he would pretty much know they would most likely be passing. So Deku and Bakugo would continue to dismantle all the robots, with Bakugo going up using different attacks, like he was like charging a explosion straight to the face of the robot before blowing it into another. But why am I getting a text right now? Anyways, the 0-pointer would be unveiled, and we would end up getting Deku and Bakugo looking at each other, both in the eyes, before nodding to each other, signaling, "Let's go," as they would both hear a scream. It would be Oraka under the rock, so Izuku would teleport straight to her before teleporting her to Recovery Girl. Before coming back, then landing a combo attack with Bakugo, making a portal right above, making a portal right to the red point. You know that little red weak spot on like all of the robots? He would send a portal right there and put another right in front of Bakugo. Bakugo would then shoot an AP shot, beaming the 0-pointer straight back. For Izuku would also send another spear-shaped portal straight at the 0-pointer, landing kind of like a combo attack, as both of them would go through the portal itself before then landing a downwards kick to the 0-pointer, making it slam and hit the ground very fast. Both of them essentially taking it out, but Deku would get the rescue points. Now, we would skip to the results. Deku and Bakugo would be at a pizza palace, with Katsuki and Inko right there, and they would both insert their disc into 2 different TVs. And they would both get accepted. As they would celebrate, eat pizza, and then have an overall great time, now we would have the beginning of classes. So about a week later, Izuku and Bakugo would walk into the class to see a sleeping bag on the floor. Deku would point to it, Bakugo noticing this, and honestly, in this version, Bakugo is literally not cocky at all. He's still confident, and Izuku is actually way more confident because of his own strength and Bakugo's. Bakugo's not cocky because Deku's strength. So, they both go sit down in the back of the class as they'll just analyze the classroom. They'll start a little conversation till Aizawa would wake up. And he would say, "You wasted 10 seconds of my time because you could not quiet down. That is not going to cut it here. Put these on and follow me outside." As everyone would put on their uniforms, follow Aizawa outside, and they would begin the Quirk apprehension test. He would toss the ball to Izuku. Izuku essentially getting the ball, he would charge a portal. He would have the ball. He's actually, let's just say he's been to Paris, right? So he sends a portal to Paris, throws the ball through, and funny enough, he peeks his head through and sees it ends up hitting someone in the head as he closes the portal quickly, and then he would show how far is Japan from Paris? He would show like some crazy number. So, yeah. And then Bakugo would go, he would get like, in the original he got 750. He's way stronger now. So let's say he got like 900 meters. And in the 50-meter dash, Izuku would be like, let's say 0.32 seconds. The 32nd of a second. Oh my gosh. Let's just say he got 100th of a second as his time. So now we conclude the Quirk apprehension test, and instead of Momo Yaoyorozu getting in first place, would actually be Izuku first place, Bakugo second, and Todoroki third, with Momo coming in fourth. As Todoroki seeing the two of them, Izuku and Bakugo, doing pretty well, then he would have to step up his game, and then he just decided he won't be coming second to anyone in any other time. So now, we get the last period of the day. Aizawa said, okay, I'll be leaving for a moment. As he leaves, it'll be all a pretty long time, about 30 minutes. They'll be wondering when he would get back, and someone would bust through the door, saying, I am here, walking in like a normal person. The entire class would then go crazy before All Might would say, a hero must have power, but to be a hero, you also must have the looks to cut it. So he would unveil their hero costume. As everyone would begin to put them on, Bakugo's would be the same, and Izuku's would actually be the vigilante. So on the thumbnail or on the screen right now, that's what his costume would look like. So now we get into the battles. So just like the original, the first match would be Deku and Araka versus Tenya Ida and Bakugo. So All Might would say, begin. As well, Deku, for the first time, would use his telekinesis on Bakugo, holding him in place, making sure he has no running ability. He would just be floating in the air. He would actually be charging explosions to propel himself forward, but this would alert Deku to where Bakugo was. So he would sneak past, and once he's seen the bomb room, he would he would actually use his telekinesis on Araka to send her through a portal. Instantly, with her touching the bomb, and the hero team winning. As Bakugo would say, hey, that was no fun there. And Deku would say, efficiency is not always fun. As that would conclude the hero battles, hero versus villain battles, whatever you want to call it. But now we get into the USJ. So, everyone would sign the permission slips to go to USJ, and they would actually be on the bus. They would be talking about who's the strongest in their class, and it would be a debate between Bakugo and Deku. Todoroki, hearing that he was not in the conversation, would speak up about it, as Tsuyu would acknowledge Todoroki as super powerful, but she doesn't think that he can beat Deku or Bakugo. So they arrive on the bus, and Pro Hero 13 would give her a boring speech, and now as Aizawa would be explaining what's going to happen, there will be some portals, and villains would begin pouring into the arena. As Kaminari would say, well, you have fake villains too? And Aizawa would recognize this and say, those are not fake villains. Be on guard. Before everyone who got teleported in the original would be teleported back to where they would go to. So, Deku would see this portal below him, thinking, oh, there's another portal user on the villain side. So as soon as he gets teleported to the water, Tsuyu would quote-unquote save him, and he would tell Mineta and Tsuyu to just come back in my portal. We have to go help the others. And he would essentially go to where others were teleported, because he could see them in the distance. So he would see them and say, okay, so you guys are going to have to come back with me. And they would just essentially teleport right on top of Aizawa's head, basically. And landing there, it would be this funny scene where everyone's rubbing their heads because they'll be teleported upside down, except Izuku because he has like control over this. And they would all come back and begin to help Aizawa, as they would just be fighting the villains, taking them down one by one, before Shigaraki would say, "Nomu, get the brats," as the Nomu would appear, blasting in. Deku, seeing this, he would begin to be frozen in fear. He would teleport Bakugo back and say, "Hey, look at that thing. Ready for a team combo?" As Bakugo would say, "Yeah, sure thing." And essentially, Izuku would create like 40 portals surrounding the Nomu, and anywhere it would try to exit, it would end up right back in its original place. And Deku and Bakugo would be traveling through these portals at such a speed, it would be equivalent to the speed of light, as it would be pretty hard to aim, but anywhere they did aim and it was wrong, it would send a portal straight to the Nomu's direction. So they would be throwing projectiles at it, Bakugo would be throwing AP shots left and right, and so would Izuku using his portal gun machine, throwing arrow-shaped portals at the Nomu, as the Nomu would begin to regenerate every time, as Aizawa would essentially stop using his eraser quirk. He would stop his quirk for the Nomu's quirk for just a moment. This would allow Izuku to rush in, landing a punch with his gauntlet straight to the Nomu's head, breaking the brain, and it would begin to disintegrate on the floor right as All Might would appear.
After that incident, UA would have to deal with the parents and like regarding their children getting injured and like how the villains even knew about what was happening.
So now we get into, after a couple, like 2 weeks, there'll be no school, and Deku and Bakugo would just be training. Now we enter the UA Sports Festival. So, first we have the Izuku would end up getting first place, of course. I mean, he can see the end of the finish line, so that means he can obviously teleport there. For the cavalry battle, Deku, essentially he would use lots of portals that he would be able to move them around his team. So his entire team would just have to sit there being surrounded by portals, allowing them to dodge and reposition themselves. Bakugo, seeing this, he would instantly demand to be on Deku's team, but it wouldn't happen. And now we get the 1v1 battles. So the match against Shinso goes pretty quick. Deku actually does not know about Shinso's abilities, so Shinso would be talking, "It must be so nice to have such a powerful quirk," as Deku would ignore this, placing a portal right below Shinso before placing one, sending him straight 50 meters into the air. Him not being able to do anything, Deku would have him land into another portal, and he would basically be sent into an infinite loop. So and then he began to shorten the distance from the Portal 1 and Portal 2 to the ground, essentially knocking Shinso unconscious from dizziness, as he would disperse the portals, and everyone would be in awe on how efficiently and quickly he finished this battle. As Izuku would go walk back into the waiting area, as he would look at Todoroki, say, "Good luck on our match." And Todoroki would walk out, finishing up his match, obviously winning, and as Deku knew, they would be facing each other. So, Deku versus Todoroki. As soon as the match begun,
Izuku would teleport behind Todoroki, but this was a feint, as he would right before throwing a punch, he would spawn another portal in front of his face. So he would punch through that portal. Todoroki, reacting to the initial punch, would not see the punch coming from behind, before throwing another kick from the upper portal that he had set up earlier. Todoroki would be hit with a barrage of portals, and a barrage of attacks that he could not dodge. Even if he tried to attack Izuku, all of his attacks would be sent into an upper direction. Deku, already having had enough fun toying with Todoroki, would just essentially spawn a portal below him, sending him out of the space. Okay, so now we get to the battle with Bakugo. Excuse me. Okay, so as the match would begin, Deku would think of a new ability. He would essentially spawn multiple sets of portals in front of him. And as I explained earlier, the momentum carries itself more and more the more portals. So, once Deku would punch through one portal, it would send it through another, and then it would carry on until it reaches its target. He would call this ability Vector Gate. So essentially, it just keeps carrying momentum multiple times until it reaches his opponent, and essentially sending them flying back, because the force of this would be at least 10 times, and it would be 10 times more every 2 portals he uses. So with about 5 portals, it would be 50 times. No, wait, is that wrong or right? I don't know, bro. But this would send Bakugo flying backwards, but he would stop himself from going off the platform with his explosions. But why am I stuttering? Okay, so Bakugo would charge at Deku and landing an AP shot straight to his shoulder. This would damage Deku. Bakugo then charging in with another explosion. Izuku would put a portal right in front of Bakugo, sending him backwards. Following the law I stated earlier, the momentum would be carried the same direction he was sent, so Bakugo would actually continue moving backwards even after using explosions to try and charge forward. So essentially, the momentum sending him backwards would be the same as if he was being sent forward. So now Izuku was able to charge at Bakugo because all he seen was a portal in front. So Deku spawned a portal below before coming in with an uppercut straight to Bakugo's stomach before jumping through that portal and pulling Bakugo through it to the other side. Once doing that, he would jump through the portal, both of his feet smashing onto Bakugo's back, as he would begin to beat Bakugo down, but Bakugo would charge an AP shot, which Deku would redirect into Bakugo's leg with another portal. Now, Bakugo would not know what to do here. Then, Bakugo would forfeit. No, never mind. That he wouldn't do that. Bakugo would then charge explosions with both of his hands on the ground, making the rubble go up, giving him a screen to get away. Once the rubble would clear and all the smoke, Deku would turn around to see Bakugo charging at him. But he would actually predict that Deku would use a portal to stop him. So, right before the punch landed, he would redirect his momentum towards behind him. While this is happening, Izuku would spawn a portal behind Bakugo, this sending Bakugo straight at Izuku with a kick to the face, sending him flying, and Deku saving himself before he gets off the platform. Now, Deku would smirk and say, "Okay, use my own abilities against you. Against me, I guess." Then he would say, "Portal Mirror Vortex," as he would surround Bakugo with tons of portals, and he would be transporting from A to B to C to D. All these portals, he would transport from each one, and they would all be connected. So, essentially, Izuku could go to any portal he wanted at any time he wanted. Any attack that he shot would hit Bakugo instantly. There was no escaping it. So, Deku would begin to barrage Bakugo by transforming his portals into projectiles before using his telekinesis to throw them at Bakugo. And I totally forgot about his telekinesis ability. So we're going to be using it right now. He essentially would begin to shake Bakugo up, like in a vortex. So let's say there's literally an entire tornado of portals, and Bakugo is in the eye of the storm, as Deku would be outside watching. Then he would release all his portals and sending Bakugo flying off the platform, almost out of the arena, saying to the crowd before some little kid that was right there. He would begin to say, "You just got beat up! I mean bad!" And Deku would smirk at Bakugo from afar with a little blood running down his cheek. Now, we get into... Okay, so Deku would be announced the winner, and he would celebrate with Inko. Inko, seeing all of this on TV, she would be like, Izuku, you were so amazing. As now we get into the Kamino / Wait, do we get into that? No, we get into the Hero Killer arc. Right. So, there would be in Kamino, is that where it's at? I don't know. There would be Tenya Ida would be looking for revenge. He would be seeking revenge. And Deku could tell something was off. So, he told him not to rush in there, as vengeance is not what heroes do. Tenya Ida would not listen, as he would charge in and get paralyzed. But eventually, Deku would teleport All Might there, and Stain would be obliterated by All Might before getting put in jail. So now, the battle in Kamino would begin. So, as Izuku would be helping people evacuate, right before he would send in all of the heroes to ambush the villains. So first he would teleport All Might and Endeavor straight on top of the villain's hideout. Then he would teleport Sir Night-Eye, Bakugo, and Fight Gum in next. Now, he would begin to teleport the rest of the heroes in a safe area for them to help if the battle gets out of hand. Then he would teleport Gran Torino in, right under All Might and Endeavor. This is now when the battle would begin. Deku, after evacuating everyone, he would begin to go out looking for All Might and Endeavor, along with Bakugo. So they would teleport into the hideout, confronting Shigaraki before defeating him. Now, All for One would make his presence known. He would explode through the building, destroying it completely in one strike. His shield would be amazing. His little tendrils looked so cool to me at first. But he would have his tendril shield would be right before them. As All Might would say to Deku, "Use what we worked on." As Baku and All Might would get ready. As Deku would use his Vector Rush, after it being completed, he would momentum stack, allowing Bakugo and All Might to land their final blows Bakugo shooting an AP shot, full power, plus pulling both of his pins at the same time, and All Might throwing a United States of Smash, all for one at once. This would decimate him completely, sending him down to his true form, which was a little tadpole. They would put this tadpole in a human-sized case as he would grow and regenerate, and he would be in jail. And Bakugo and Deku, after All Might retiring, would be the number 1 and number 2 heroes. And that's where I'll be finishing this video by Øni-Kai. If you made it this far, I really hope you watch some of my other videos. But if you made it this far, please like and subscribe, because I will be posting pretty frequently, as I did post yesterday, and this video is coming out, so yeah, and I have a video ready to post tomorrow. So please like and subscribe. I'll try to be consistent, and see ya. Bye, your boy, Øni-Kai.